will try my best.
Sure. All right. So I've started the recording. I just want to make sure, Raghu, we will as we move forward, and if you like these sessions and you want to join, keep joining us. You're pretty welcome. We'll be using the same Zoom link. We'll be uploading these videos to YouTube, so everybody can watch those sessions, right? So let's go ahead and start because we are like 4 minutes in. So I'm sharing my screen. I'll start the presentation. So just to recall what we did first session that we did last week, right? We looked at URL, we looked at URL decomposition, what is a host, what is a port, what is path, what is, query parameters, so on and so forth. We looked at it. The session is already there in YouTube. The next thing we looked at is different layers of web app. At least we talked about, if you guys didn't follow, there is a front end, there's a middleware, there's a back end. Back end is what we talk about, SQL and all. So we will touch that. We have not looked at the middleware. We did look at Java program to play with. We didn't really go into the depth of it. That's the middleware. We did talk a lot about front end. We talked about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I gave you a very grounded layman example of what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is. HTML is like skeleton of a human being, right? You just create a skeleton. Then you add a complexion and a skin on top of it. So you're making it beautiful, that is CSS. And now you put life into that human being. That is JavaScript, okay? And we are today, the whole session that we're having, the first session, the first day, tomorrow we'll have another one that's continuation, right? We will look at HTML, CSS, JavaScript, not in detail because you're not doing a UI development, you're coming to testing, right? But it's good to know what it is. So we'll look at that. The next thing that you did last week was you installed Git, you installed VS Code, you installed Notepad++, you installed Java 17+, it could be Java 19 also. And then you'll install the latest version of Maven. Anybody who has not installed, I know Raghu is an exceptional case today, he will do it. But anybody who was there in the session last week has not installed any of this because this is a prerequisite. Shirin, Sidra, Komali, have you guys done all of this?
Yeah, done, Samir, everything done.
Perfect. I also explained what is a JRE and a JDK last time in the chat, right? The Java Development Kit and the Java Runtime Environment. I hope you have followed it. If not, it's there in the chat. Please do follow that or ask me questions, okay? And we will visit that again. That's why I'm not going in depth right now. We did a very, very simple Java program to play with. There's a typo here, ignore that. So I had asked you as a part of your assignment to complete all your installation and to play with that Java program without even knowing what it does, okay? Not to worry about Java C, not to worry about Java. I hope you all have done that. That's a recall from last week. What are we going to learn today? None of this is going to be in depth. The most important piece that I really want to get to is the last one, which is XPath, because XPath is the missing thing that people do not pay attention to, and then they jump to Java. And then they are all over the place, not realizing how do I identify an element in a document object model. So if you have to take anything from here today in this session, okay, it's going to be DOM, which is document object model, and XPath. I'm going to pause here for a second so that anybody who wants to ask a question could ask a question. Anyone has questions so far? Any question? Anyone? No? Okay. So document object model and XPath are the two very important things. Yeah, XML, yes, but XML has no structure, okay? So we will look at XML at a very brief. All of this, what I'm talking about, none of it I'm going to go in depth today, okay? Because I want you to show equal dedication to what I'm taking to create this presentation for you, explicitly for you, because I don't pull it out from the internet, right? I mean, I pull out the information from internet, but I'm making this presentation for you. Waking up early morning, okay? I want you to show that same dedication to me as a tribute to what I'm doing for you, okay? I'm going to be having links for HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'll be teaching enough for you to be able to get in there and understand what is happening, okay? But I'm not going to do spoon feeding. That's the whole perspective of how I think learning happens, okay? So please give in those couple of hours of your time to really spend time on that assignments that I'm going to give you, okay? Let's move forward. HTML basics. Anybody over here knows, I mean, who doesn't know HTML, I'll be surprised. You are using Facebook, Instagram, a lot of applications that are presented in a browser. All of that, the key part of that whole web page that is presented to you in a browser is HTML. So what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, HTML. It is standard markup language for creating web pages. Okay, there's no other markup language at the moment. There were several that came in. DHTML came in, XML with XSLT came in, but HTML has been conquering this region for several years now, and it will conquer it for several years going forward. So the latest version they talk about is HTML5. Let me get rid of this guy here. Okay. The next one is HTML describes the structure of the web page. As I told you, a human skeleton, that's the structure of the web page. That's what it describes. HTML consists of series of elements, and we'll quickly, when we get into this assignment over here, when I walk you through, we'll talk about these elements. HTML elements tell the browser how to display the content. Okay, when we talk about elements, what do they tell? Like you have a bone here, there, whatever, however many bones you have. So it basically tells how to display the content in a browser. Okay. The last one is HTML elements label pieces of content such as this is a heading, this is a paragraph, this is a link, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So let's do a very simple HTML demo, and I'm going to send you this presentation and the demo. And that's the reason why I'm going a little fast, because to me, this is not important. If I was doing a UI training, probably I would have spent a little more time getting into each and every detail, but I would really, really encourage you to get in there and take a look at it, okay? So let's look at the demo real quick. Very, very simple demo, which I'll send to you and you can play with it. So what I have is this HTML01.html over here. I'll open it up in Notepad++, which again, you must have installed. And if you look at it, let me get rid of all the others. Very simple HTML page. I will try to format it a little bit so that when you talk about DOM, it becomes easy for you to understand. Okay, so look at it very carefully. This tag over here, HTML5 document. Okay, you don't have to worry about that at all. Your UI developers are going to take care of it with all the other agent-related tags that they have to add. But to keep it simple, very, very simple. So what do you see? You see there's an HTML element, right? That HTML element. Inside HTML element, you see head and you see body. Right?
So your voice quality is dropping. Just making
really?
sure it's not me.
Oh, everybody, it's the same with you guys. That's what happened even last week.
Yes.
Yeah, same thing.
Yes, same thing, Samir.
Oh, is
I
it
don't know
dropping?
why.
Terribly
Yeah,
bad.
suddenly it's dropping.
Reach out to Zoom then, because Farah has joined with a completely different account.
Yeah.
Is it because I'm going a little fast? Is it better now?
Yeah. Just try to be slow. I don't know why it's happening, but yeah, you can try
Okay.
to write it.
If
So
it goes bad again, Raghu, please do tell me. Okay. I'll try to take a look.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we have HTML. Inside HTML, we have head and we have body. Okay. Inside head, we have title. Inside body, we have two tags over here. One is H1, which is header 1, and we have P, which is paragraph. Okay. We will go to details of it, but the reason is I already have assignment for you, a URL, which will tell you each and every element that you have to know. Okay. So what I will do is I will go here and I will open this up. I mean, it's already in Chrome, but if you're not there, you can see this and you can say open with Chrome, or you can say choose another app and you can say always open with this app. Okay. So I'll open up with Chrome. So when you open up with Chrome, you're seeing my first heading over here, which is the H1 tag, which we entered, and my first paragraph. And then the title shows up over here. So let's play a little bit. I'll not spend a whole lot of time over here. I will call this as test automation demo HTML. HTML demo. Okay. So just saving it, going over here and just refreshing. Just take a look at this one over here, okay?
Samir, how did you save the file? Like, do we have to give
Save.
an extension?
No. Yeah, this file I will be sending to you, Shirin. This whole
Okay.
lesson I'll be sending to you. So you'll be able to play with it. So there's an extension called .html. Okay.
Okay.
It's a very good question. It's a very legitimate question, which I keep telling everybody that comes in as a developer. One thing you have to remember is always, if you're going to be a developer and you want to look at extensions, sometimes Windows hides those extensions for you. Okay. So it's always good to go to view, go to options, go to change folder and search option over here. Always remember this, okay? I'm not going to repeat this again, but please carry this always. This setting should always be there on a developer's machine. And go to view over here. I'll again go there, okay? Cancel. Go to view. Go to options. Go to change folder and search options. Go to view. When you go to view, there are two things I want you to change. One is this will be selected over here for you. Don't show hidden files, folders, and drives. I want you to see the hidden files, because as an automation engineer or a developer, it's very important for you to see all files that are there on your folder. Okay, even the files that starts with dot, which are hidden files. That is one thing. And the other one is this one will be checked for you. Just uncheck it. Hide extension for known file types. Okay. Any questions over here?
No.
Okay. So apply. Okay. Now, when you do, you see this extension is shown over here. And even if I create a hidden file, that hidden file will be seen. Okay. How you save is you can do Control S. After you make some change, you can do a Control S to save in Notepad, or you can click on this button over here. I prefer to use shortcuts, but you may not. Shirin, did I answer the question that you asked?
Yeah, but first we would have saved as, right, with a file name. We can give any file name and then .html.
Yes. So you can do something like this. Let's say text document.
Mhm.
You can say,
Okay, got it. Yeah.
and then I can copy the content of this guy over here, like Control A, Control C, go to shirin.html, paste it over here. And now if I go back to this, double click, that is what it is. Okay.
I got it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's delete it. Shift delete deletes it without sending it to recycle bin if you do not know it. So I'll get rid of it. I'll go back to the Notepad++ over here, say I don't want to save it. And over here, you saw title, okay? You can change this over here, the heading. So H1 basically says make it bold, make it big. Okay, so I'll save this, go back over here to browser. And you can press F5, okay, if you want to refresh, that's another shortcut. So you see that test automation 101. I pressed F5, but you can always do this. So test automation 101, that's a heading. Now, what I want you to really do is I have put a nice link over here, this link over here. Okay, when I send you this presentation, please click on this link, spend about an hour, 2 hours or whatever to go through, play around. So what he will be doing there is he'll be creating, let's say H2. What H2 does, what H3 does, how many here. So you see the heading is a little lesser in size. And then you have paragraph, then you can create a table, right? You can create a table if you want to. I don't want to go through this whole thing. So I don't want to go through this whole thing, then you can add styles to it. I'll go through that style. Don't worry about it right now.
So to run this, what are we doing? Like you did something open with Chrome always.
Yeah, open with Chrome. You don't have to open with Chrome always. You can right click and say open with Chrome. So this is the browser. You can open in Chrome, you can open in IE, you can open in Firefox, anything.
I was just trying to understand the flow. Like we wrote in Notepad++, then how are we running from Notepad++?
Just, you're not running in Notepad++, you're coming back to
Sorry,
your
in
folder.
Chrome,
Yeah, and you're just saying open with Google Chrome, that's it.
Okay.
Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to this link over here, it'll take you through this HTML, and there are several tags. It should not take you a long time. You just have to complete until maybe whatever you like. If you want to go to HTML forms also, feel free to go. It's not a requirement, okay? This is not a UI course. It is just for you to understand what is HTML, what are the different elements, what are the different structures, without getting into the details of it. If it's a UI course, we will go into the detail of it. But go as deep as you want, just so that you feel comfortable when you're looking at an application with the HTML in there, and you're able to identify the elements. That's the whole intent, okay? So I'm not going to go through all of that. Is that clear about the assignment? You're going to go through this W3 schools. Whoever wants to learn a little more about HTML. Clear? Anyone? Okay, let's move to the next one. CSS, as I told you, gives style to your HTML page. So let's quickly look at that. This is another one I have created for you, CSS01 HTML. What is types of CSS? Okay, there's a external CSS. Let's start here. There's an inline CSS. Okay, there is an internal CSS and there's an external CSS. What do you mean by that? Okay, let's look at it one at a time. What is an inline CSS? Inline CSS is over here. Earlier on in the HTML, you must have seen it was just H1. It didn't have anything, right? The only thing that I'm adding over here extra is this style. Do you notice that? This one. So style is equals to background green. So for this H1, the background color should be green. The font family should be first give preference to Arial. If Arial is not found, go to Times. If Times is not found, go to Serif. That's what this means. Okay. So let's remove this 2 for now. I'll just remove this 2 for now to avoid the confusion. Okay, it's this inline. That's what inline is. I'll go here. Once it is in HTML, you can double click or right click and say open with Chrome. So if you see here, this is the Arial font. It is not looking the same as this one. This is Times New Roman, and this is Arial, and the color has changed to green. So try to relate the words that I was saying, right? A skeleton is created and now you're adding skin on top of it, or muscle on top of it. You're adding colors, you're changing the font, you're changing the location of it, location of the text, so on and so forth, right? You're aligning it left, right, center, whatever. All of that is skinning. All of that is complexion. Any questions over here, Albert? No. Let's move to the next one. You know what an inline CSS is now. Let's look at internal CSS. In internal CSS, you're not writing it in line with the element. You're saying any element that is the P element, which is P over here in our case, apply this rule. And there are several of this rule, okay? When you go to the CSS assignment, you'll see there are several skinning that you can do. You can change color, you can change alignment, you can change font, you can change several things, okay? Over here, we are just doing 2 things. One, we are saying the text should be aligned in the center. Like if you see here, the text is on the left, right? We are saying align the text in the center and color the text as red, okay? We'll go here. I hope I've saved it, yes. And I'll do a refresh. You see this? It is aligned in the center and the color is changed to red, okay? This type of styling CSS is called internal CSS, internal to the page, internal to the HTML page. That's what internal CSS is. There's another one, which is external CSS. What we are saying over here with the link element is it is a style sheet, and the style sheet, where is it located? It is located in the same place where HTML is, and the name of the file is mystyle.css. You'll ask, where is it? It is here. So mystyle.css, it is in line with the HTML. If I put it inside a folder, I will have to put the path to the folder, right? And if I open this one, it doesn't do anything different. What it is doing is for H2, which we have not applied anything yet, right? My first paragraph is still looking a little dirty. I mean, not that this looks beautiful. H2 is still having the default behavior. What we are saying is H2 should be colored blue. That's what it is saying. Okay, so I'll save this file. This file already is located in there. I'll go in and say refresh. If you see, this is changed to header blue. Any questions over here? I mean, I've kept it very, very simple so that when you go through this link for W3C, you understand what I'm talking about. And there are two more critical pieces that I want to talk about, but let me pause over here and ask you, is there a question? Shireen, Sidra?
I'm trying to understand. I mean, in the first one, we mentioned about H2, right? Like, how is it calling? Okay, got it. Yeah.
This is H2. This is HTML. That's why I'm telling you, Shireen.
Mhm.
What you'll have to do is you'll have to
Yeah.
first go through this,
Correct,
complete
correct.
that session.
Yeah.
Know the skeleton. If you don't know skeleton and you start adding skin on top of it, you'll be. So my responsibility as a teacher is to tell you this is .1, this is .2. You have to learn about .1, you have to learn about .2. That's how you'll be able to connect .1 and .2.
Yeah, this
Make
looks
sense?
interesting. We'll go through this. Yeah.
Because if anybody comes and tells you, hey guys, go to W3C and learn over there, everything is in there. The biggest problem that a student has is, what do I learn? There's so much of information over there. What do I learn, right? Over here, I'm telling you exactly what you need to learn. You need to learn HTML and not in depth, just enough for you to know what HTML is. Learn CSS just enough for you to know what CSS is. And why learn? Because when we do automation using Java, we'll be using selectors in the Selenium WebDriver. And if you do not know what selector is, it will be very hard for me to tell you what it is during that time, because I'll be teaching you Java and now I'll have to also teach you selectors. You get my whole point, right? Why I'm doing this?
Yes, yes. It looks good.
All right, so let's quickly read through the presentation over here. What is CSS? I'm not going to go through all of this. You guys are going to read it. 3 ways to insert CSS, which you've already seen. Inline CSS, which goes along with the element. Internal CSS that goes within the elements called style in the header, right? Header is what? Head. This is internal. And then you have external CSS you do with link. And you point, it can, href could be anything. It can be a file residing within your folder. It can be a file hosted on a server. Again, don't get confused with it. What you just need to know is, I want a place where my CSS is located. And right now, the place is along with the HTML file, but external to the HTML file, okay? Those are the 3 ways to insert CSS. Selectors, how do you select? Now, when you come to external over here, what we did here was H2, okay? What is H2? H2 is an element. So you can select by element. That's what this element means. You can select by element. I can always do dot Samir, let's say. There's nothing called Samir, right? I'm just going to save it. Nothing should change over here, hopefully, right? And always try to remember this, which I showed you last time. More tool, developer tool. And see if there are any errors. There's no errors over here right now. If there are errors, it will show up here in the red color, okay? Now what I will do is I will go in my HTML because I added Samir over here. And I will add a new one over here. Let's call it as H2 only. But I'll add a class equals to Samir. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to spend time troubleshooting it, okay? Because we are nowhere looking at You see this, it turned green. This also is H2, this also is H2, but I wanted to apply this H2, a special feature. That's why I called it as class equals to Samir. Samir, there's no tag called Samir. By now you should know, and I spelled my name wrong. I don't like that. So I'll go back and I'll change it to, and okay, I'll leave it as Samir over here, but inside there it is SAMER. So you should be able to tell what color will change this to. It will change to default color, which is black. Well, H2, we have defined a blue color over here. Over here. That's why it is taking the whole blue color, because the default is black, but this guy is changed to blue. That's why this guy changed to blue. Okay. I'll change this guy to Samir now. And I'll refresh. The color is changed to green. Okay. That is another one that I'm talking about, element by class. That is what this is when you put a dot. There's another thing that you can do. You can do element by ID. I'll call it as Raghu over here. And I'll add color. I don't know if brown color exists or not, but I'll put brown. Okay. It should mostly exist. And I will add another H2 over here, the same tag. And I'll put the name as Raghu. When you actually do it by hand yourself, right, it will be a second part of you. When I'm doing it, you might feel, oh, it's complicated. Somebody is moving from one file to another file, going to the folder. What's happening? Too much of chaos. But when you start doing it, and when you start playing with it, it will be very easy. Okay, so it didn't apply. The reason it didn't apply is because we said class. I will change it to ID. Okay, the thing is, we have put hash over here, not a dot. Okay, so I'll go here. It changed to Raghu. Okay, so coming back to this presentation, you can do a selector for CSS by element class, which is dot, or by element ID, which is a hash. And what is element ID and class? It is this. Class equals to something or ID equals to something. And if you want to tell CSS, go and find wherever ID is equals to Raghu. So I can even do this, okay? The beauty with this is I can do P. Hello, students. And I can put P over here. And the great thing is I can copy this ID and put it for this guy over here. And this guy should behave in color similar to this guy. The size will be different because this is H2 and this is P, which is fine. See that? It brought it in the center because of this guy. So it is saying P, align it to the center, color red, but we are changing the color to brown using this ID. So it is disrespecting this guy over here and adding a new respect, which is saying, hey, I want the color to be brown explicitly for this particular ID. So this should also implicitly tell you which CSS has more preference, right? There was an inline CSS, internal CSS, okay, which was saying color red. And then we were saying for ID Raghu, change the color to brown. So it gave more preference to ID Raghu and change the color to brown. We never want to do it in real world. Like we don't want to have ambiguity saying one will be red, the other one will be brown. People take care of that. That doesn't happen. Okay? But just for your FYI, this is how it behaves. Okay, I'm going to wait over here. I think I've told you a lot of CSS over here. Unless and until you do it, you'll follow nothing of this. Okay, so for that, there is this link for W3 School. But come to this W3 School only after you finish HTML. Okay, and HTML, I'm not saying go through everything. HTML, enough for you to understand what HTML is. And as soon as you know it, come to this particular link over here. But I would love you to complete this before we start our next session on next weekend. Tomorrow we'll have a session, but it's not a prerequisite for you to complete it. If you can complete it, great. That shows me your drive, right? But if you cannot complete it, at least complete it over the week, next week, so that on the weekend, you don't have a question on this. Or if you have a question, please put it up into the chat and ask me at that time so that we don't have to clarify during the lesson next week. Is that clear?
Yes.
Everyone? Perfect.
Samir,
Yeah.
I had one question.
Sure.
if you can go back to the screen, the previous screen. When you wrote class is equals to Samir, why is S in a lowercase here and then it's uppercase here? I mean, is there any?
This one?
Yes.
No, they have no relationship at all. This is just a text that is displayed.
Okay.
So this could be hello Sidhar.
No, my question is the S over here is lowercase and here it is uppercase. So is there any relationship, or it could be lowercase?
No, that's what I'm telling you, Sidhar. This is junk. This is what is displayed on browser. This has nothing. So if I go back over here, that is displayed on browser. That text can be with capital T, small t, capital A. It can be anything that you want to have. It can even be special characters in there.
Okay.
Okay. What matters is this name over here has to match with this name over here.
Okay.
If I put a capital letter over here, I believe it will not work because it is case sensitive. Okay. So let's try that. See that it changed to blue.
Right.
So this has to match with the class.
Okay.
Okay. This is the content. You don't have to worry about it. You can put whatever you want to put over here. It will be displayed on the browser.
Okay. Perfect.
Anyone else has questions? But these are all good questions, okay? Because the whole thing when you're learning on an online course is you cannot ask these basic questions because everybody assumes these are basic, it's understood. So it really helps me when you ask this question, because then I know I have to go a little deeper to explain those concepts. Shirin, do you have any questions?
I will go through the links.
Yeah,
I
think that is the wisest thing to
class,
do.
ID, these are all, we are creating kind of objects, and then we are calling from that page. Is it like that?
No, there's no calling. There's no concept of calling. That just happens. So
we are defining the elements right here, and then we, I mean, and on the other one, it's like creating an external element, right?
Okay, first off, this class over here has nothing to do with Java class. Okay, just to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just to clarify.
But we are defining, maybe it's not a Java class, but we are defining, right? That's why when we are putting in the other notepad page, when you are putting capital S, so it's not showing any reflection on the result.
Right. So if you see here, right, Shirin, what the browser is doing, we are not selecting. The browser is selecting. Is we have referenced their style sheet in the browser saying, hey guy, you have a style sheet that is external. That's where it all starts with. Okay, there's a style sheet. So whenever you have to decorate my HTML, please refer to the style sheet. That's what we're telling the browser. Okay, the browser is a driving engine for us. Okay, then over here what we are telling this guy is, and if you look at this specifically, it says selectors. Selector is what? If I give you, let's say 10 donuts of different colors, and I tell you pick one, you're going to pick one randomly, correct?
Yeah.
But if I tell you pick the one that have gems multicolored on it, you'll be able to pick up exactly the one that has the gems on top of it, right? Multicolored gems.
Correct. Yeah.
When I'm giving you that instruction, telling you pick up this donut with gems on it, and there's a multicolored, not white, not black, not green, multicolored. I'm giving you instruction to select. Out of 10, I'm telling you exactly what to select. That's what a selector is. Out of multiple elements that could have been over here, we are saying find, oh, where did it go? Find H2 element and apply the color blue to it. Then we are saying find any element that has class Samir, apply color green to it. Find any element that has ID Raghu applied to it and change the color to brown. Does this make it more simple to understand?
Yes, yes, definitely. So on the main page, we are calling, like we are giving the instruction, select from style sheet.
Yes, we are telling here, where is my style sheet? Okay.
Yeah.
And And you can add as many style sheets as you want. If you want to break it up into 10 different style sheets, you can just copy paste this and just change the name of this style sheet. These are some of the things that I want you to do when you're doing hands-on. Okay.
And if we don't want to create any different page or style sheet, we can always go and select in the same, and that will be internal or inline element.
This is internal. This is internal. If you put it within the style, it is internal. So if you copy the whole content from here and put it inside the styles, it is internal. If you go and add it to a specific element like this, element by element, that is inline. The problem with element by element is when somebody designs a web page, there's this concept called UX, user experience. Okay. You always want to have a similar user experience. When you go to a Facebook page, let's say, you don't want to see a font of 10 size at one place and then another one at 20 size somewhere else. You want to see uniformity, right? Our eyes like beauty. So how do you make it beautiful is basically you will externalize your style sheet and you will have your multiple pages use those same style sheets. Again, this is the advanced concept. Let's not get there because it will confuse the heck out of everyone.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, this helps. This helps better. I got a better picture. Yeah, thank you.
And feel free to ask questions, right? I mean, the whole intent of this time that I'm spending with you all is because otherwise it's very hard for you to ask questions. And if you're stuck on one thing, you're just not able to move on. I know a month down the line when we wrap up this session, or 2 months down the line when we wrap up this session, and when you are able to move fast and furious, you might not remember that we went through all this exercise. You might just feel that I knew all this because that will become second part of you. Okay. So just remember this, go back to session number 2 and remember that you had these basic questions and I politely answered those questions.
Yes.
All right. Let anybody else has questions. Feel free to ask questions, because if you don't ask question, no matter how silly those questions are, right? Questions are not silly, just ask it. And if they are silly, I will laugh and tell you it's a silly question. I don't want to answer. So feel free. Komali, do you want to take a question?
No, Samir, I will go through it and I will see.
Perfect. Farah, you have practiced all this. She is expert by now. Farah, you have any questions? She's not even here, I think. Farah, are you there?
No, I'm here. No, not here. I'll go through the this thing recording video, then I'll ask you.
Raghu, this is too basic for you. You have any question?
Raghu
No,
is
sir.
pro.
I mean, I don't want to call it as basic. These are, we know, right? As long as we don't practice, we forget everything, even basics also. So I'm just refreshing. It's all.
Sure, Raghu. Yeah, I mean, if
I really see very good questions from
Shireen.
Yeah, because that's how even I felt first time, like maybe years back when I started reading CSS, trying to understand HTML, how it maps. Anything perception is important, right? That perception, once we get it, will be easy to learn. So
Exactly.
she's trying to get over through that perceptions, any confusions causing to get her create that perception. That is really good.
Exactly. And this questions actually, Raghu, keeps me wanting to do this kind of sessions more, right? There's people wanting to learn, like, okay, I have a drive. I mean, last sessions that we had with Romana and Saujanya and Jyoti and Mansa, like I was recently talking to Bill Octolani, who's in FIS, Raghu, you know him. And the kind of feedback that he about those two resources, right? He clearly is telling me Romana is one of the top resources in digital one. You know, that makes me proud, irrespective. Okay, I would like to hear the similar reviews for you guys. That, you know, there's a difference it has made just with a 1 month or 2 months of session. There's a difference. I'm able to go understand stuff. I'm able to go talk to people. I'm able to go Google for stuff. Many a time people say I will Google, but my question always boils down to what will you Google? Like, do you know foundational to Google what you really want? So these are foundational things. All right, let's move on. I have last topic to complete. Not last topic in that skeleton, skinning, and life. So life is what I'm coming to. This is going to be the most complex of those 3 that we saw. Okay, most complex and the most fun of all those 3. Okay, most of the time, the most complex are the most fun once you understand it. And as I told you, if you create a human being, you create a skeleton, you add a skin to it, any child can do that. But putting a life into that human being, and telling that human being what exactly he needs to do, how he needs to move, how he needs to eat, how he needs to react to people, other people, is life, right? And to me, that is godly. Being able to put life is godly. So if you have to focus on anything, and if you really want to go deeper into it, even though it is not test automation, I would say spend time on JavaScript, because when you learn JavaScript very well, it will open up a lot of new paradigms for you. You can start looking at web frameworks like Cypress. You can start coding in frameworks like Node.js, which is server-side JavaScript. You can start creating web page using React and Angular, which is websites on the UI side or the front end framework for building your web application. So if you can spend 1 week, 2 weeks continuously just doing JavaScript and understanding only JavaScript. I'm not asking you to go do React. I'm not asking you to go do Angular. I'm not asking you to go do Cypress. I'm not asking you to go do anything else. Okay, just JavaScript. And that is the reason why I'm not going to give you any demo over here on JavaScript. I'm going to give you this link because this is the most interesting, the topic that can confuse you the most. So I want you to go do it first and then have questions for me and tell me the next session, which is the next week session, do you want me to spend time on JavaScript or not? And trust me, this is one of the most important topic which can open up branching in multiple directions. Okay, you can be a middleware developer. You can even be a backend developer if you're using the latest database schemes called NoSQL, like MongoDB, like DynamoDB, and you want to store JSON. JSON is JavaScript object notation, and play with JavaScript. It will open up a whole new avenue. And you might come back and tell me, Samir, I want to learn more about JavaScript. I want to know about Node.js, and I'll tell you, yeah, it will cost you some fee. Okay, so what I'm telling you is don't come to me for JavaScript. But I love JavaScript, trust me. Very interesting. It's a very powerful. I do a lot of automation using JavaScript, Node.js specifically. Okay, is this a good talk on this slide, or do you want me to show you any JavaScript, or is it better that you go do something and come back to me? Okay, at least, am I making it interesting that JavaScript will open up a whole new avenue for you guys, from automation to middleware to backend? Okay.
Yes, definitely. If we have time and you're not going to cover any other topic, then maybe we can discuss a little bit more on Java.
I have DOM, XML, and XPath to cover. XPath being the most. These three are the most important thing that I want to cover actually.
Yeah, then let's go with that first. Yeah.
Okay, but I want you to finish up these 3 assignments. Okay, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and spend a lot of time on JavaScript. Okay, all right. 1, document object model. I've put an assignment over here, but you don't really have to go through the whole flow. I'm going to quickly tell you what a document object model is. When we write this HTML over here like this, okay, what the browser really does is browser creates a tree. Okay, you know what is a tree? Everybody knows what is a tree? Yeah. If not, you know, right? So in a tree, or in an organizational chart, if you've seen an organizational chart, you have a CEO on top. Inside CEO, you'll have CFO, CTO, etc., etc. Inside a CTO, you might have its own technology branching, so on and so forth. So it's a tree, right? It's a reverted tree. Okay. Similarly, browser does the same thing. It creates a tree. Okay. And browser is very forgiving. So even if you make a little mistakes here and there, typos anywhere, it is forgiving. It doesn't break it. Okay. That's the beauty of it, actually. Good and bad. In this case, if I had to draw a tree, how would my tree really look? So let me click on this guy over here. My tree will look like this. So there's a document. Inside document, there's a root element called HTML. Inside HTML, you have a head and a body, correct? You have a head and a body. Inside head, you have title. Right? And inside title, it is the text content, the one that Sidra was asking, and I said, don't worry about it. It can be capital, lower, whatever. That's the text content. Similarly, when you come to body, You can add href. I mean, you've not learned about all the elements, right? Which you'll do as part of a session. There's a href, there's a, there's a h1, h2, p, so on and so forth. And each one of them will have the text wherever it's applicable. Okay, makes sense? That is what a document object model is. And why is a document object model important for you from a test automation perspective? See, I had to come to this topic and to tell you, to come to this one single question, I have to talk about HTML, I have to talk about CSS, I have to talk about JavaScript. And now I'm coming to document object model, talking about a tree. That's where I'm trying to connect those dots, because our human mind is very complex, right? Unless and until you give it a path and connect those dots together, it can learn nothing. So lesson number one, which I had told you last time also when you were here, Sidra and Shireen, is, and Komali, is I'm going to tell some basic principles of learning during the sessions. Of everything that I'm teaching, make a note of those, because those are going to be the golden pieces for you, which I have not documented in any book. I have not read from any book. It's coming through experience. Okay, if you have to note something, it is this. When you're learning, know how to connect the dots. If you cannot connect dots, your brain will just not accept your learning. It'll forget it, because then you're just doing book reading. And Shireen, I was having a big conversation with Mazhar the other day, why you should let young kids go to internet, controlled internet, and read from it, because the young kids are connecting those dots, trying to find information. Books do give you information, but there's a limitation on it, right? You have to go to several books to get that information. Over here, you're able to connect a lot of information together, right? Do kind of a research. That's where the connecting of dots is. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So HTML, Don, I want you to really spend a little time. It's not a big one over here. Okay. Just read about it. I mean, don't spend too much time. You don't understand something, it's fine. You want to ask question about it, fine. But in the end, it all boils down that your browser is going to be having a DOM like this. And to prove that, let's go over here. And if you use this guy, and if you see, you see that structure, right? Like I'm able to navigate through. See, I'm able to go here, which is H2, and you can look at it and say H2 is under the body, right? If I go over here, you see H1, which is the top one down here, this one, like you can go here, you can go here. So these are basically identifying the element. It is basically, you don't see it as a tree, but trust me, it is a document object model, which is a tree, which we're showing over here. Okay. Will you please don't spend a lot of time on this, and don't even switch gears. Okay, don't come to DOM before you finish HTML and CSS. Don't go to JavaScript before you finish HTML and CSS. Don't go to CSS before you finish HTML. Don't jump. Go in order. Finish HTML as much as you want. And again, I'm repeating the same thing again and again. As much as you want. You're not a UI developer, so you don't need to know each and every element in detail. You don't need to. You just need to know enough to be able to talk to the UI developer and tell him there is a problem in this element. We are not able to recognize this element. Can you please put an ID for it so that my test automation can select that element? If you're able to only talk that much of HTML is enough for you.
Okay.
Yep. No. All right. Let's move to the next one, because the last piece is the most important piece that I want to get to. XML. What is XML? What is HTML? The biggest difference between HTML and XML is HTML is a language for browser. HTML has a fixed naming for elements. So element HTML in over here cannot be called as HTML2. You cannot call it as HTML2, and browser should not render this. And as I told you, browser is forgiving. I will not be surprised if browser doesn't give error. Let's go and see. Okay, but I'm expecting the browser should not be able to render it. But you see, did I save it or not? This is a different page. I want a different one. Which page did I change? CSS01. Yeah, this one. You see, the browser, even though I called it as HTML1, is being forgiving. It is trying to be intelligent, to identify that this is not HTML2, it is HTML. Okay, but there's no element called HTML2. in HTML. There's no element called body2. There's no element called my body. There's no element called, you know what I'm trying to say, right? But when it comes to XML, XML can be anything. XML can be a data for, let's say, books. You could have a data like this. Something like that, right? And then I could just put as much as I want over here. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is XML is an extensible markup language. It is a language wherein you want your UI to a backend, right? You want it to talk to each other. How do they talk to each other? They always talk to each other using a language. Like how, if I want to talk to you right now, giving this presentation, the language that I'm using is English. If a Java program needs to talk, or the UI talk to the Java program, how is it going to talk to it? It will talk to it using a language. Using a protocol is what we call it, to be very specific. Okay, and there are three common protocols. There are more actually, which I will name them, but there are three common protocols. The first one that came in, which was web services, which is being deprecated right now. People are not using it, but there are some services still there in the industry that are using this protocol, and that is called SOAP protocol. Okay, SOAP, SOAP protocol. Okay, if you're interested, find it. I don't even want to tell you what the abbreviation is, because to me that is dead. Okay, SOAP protocol was a pure XML based protocol. Okay, it was XML based protocol, SOAP. Then came a time saying, hey guys, I'm trying to talk to my Java program on the browser, and it is taking a long time for my UI to render details onto the page, because the SOAP or XML is very verbose. The book has end book. This book has end book. This book has end book. This ISBN has this ISBN over here. So it becomes very verbose very soon. Verbose is too detailed, right? It becomes too detailed very soon. So they came up with this new protocol, or a new language protocol, which is called JSON. Okay, and we have not talked about JSON at all. We will talk about JSON. I promise you that when we get into the Java and we start creating services just for fun, not because automation requires it, just for fun. Okay, and that's the time we will talk about JSON. Okay, and as I told you, for XML, the protocol was SOAP. For JSON, for web services, the protocol is REST. Okay, REST has the full form too. And JSON is JavaScript object. Do you see that? JavaScript? As I told you, Java.
David, your voice is dropping.
Oh, is it dropping even now?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Oh, you know what? This might be because of I'm not charging.
I'm not?
I think my laptop is not charging.
Really?
Are you all able to hear me now? Are you all able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, XML is for SOAP, JSON is for REST. Okay. We will look at this, okay, but we are not even going to JSON right now. We are not going to REST. We are only talking about XML. But I had to tell you about SOAP, and the only reason we are talking XML, even though it is, according to me, it is dead, although it is not dead. The only reason is document object model still renders as this. Okay, because HTML, you see it's still in this particular format. Okay, and I need to come to XPath, and that's the reason why I'm talking about XML. So if you are interested in knowing about XML, go over here, but I don't see any big value being added to your profile by learning about XML. Okay, so if you want to go read up a little bit about it, and it might help you. But what I want to really get to is XPath. Okay, and I wanted to tell you that X is basically coming for the relationship. Sorry, you're able to hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, this X comes from XML. Okay, or at least some relationship to I, to XML, and that's why I talked about XML. XPath is the most important piece that I want, and like how I told you JavaScript, I want you to spend a lot of time learning JavaScript, okay, by yourself, and then come and ask me questions. Similarly, I would say spend a lot of time in learning about XPath. Learning about XPath is a lot more complex because people have not connected those dots. Okay, they go learn about XPath, then they talk about XSL, then they talk about XSL transformation, which is XSLT. Okay, I want to avoid that confusion for you guys. So if you get a chance to go through this week, great. If you don't worry about it. Okay, to me, this is the most important piece when it comes to connecting your world, your automation world, with Java. Because we are going to be, most of the time, we are going to be identifying element on a web page using XPath. Okay, so let's quickly talk about that very briefly. If I'm given this XML over here, or HTML, which is over here, okay, and I want to identify exactly this element, and I want to color only this element, or I want to add information for this particular element in the form. How am I going to do that? And imagine this as a XML with 1,000 lines of code, 1,000 lines, not just this. For your eyes, it's very easy, right? You can say, go and find that I here is equal to this, and it will give you this element, the parent element. It's for eyes, it's fine, but for a machine, how are you going to do that? That's where XPath comes in. You can define path.
Your voice is not very clear, Samir. It's dropping and then it's coming back.
Gosh, I have to really, I have this paid version of Zoom. I'm really disappointed with them now. Is it any better now?
It is better, but it feels like your mic is going up and down, like the volume goes up and down. So
give me a second. What's the time? 9:30, I think. Anyway, it's time up for us. So I'll not fix it today, but next time I was using a microphone last time, and even then we had a problem. Okay.
Now it's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's my laptop. So it was not Farah. We were blaming Farah last time. So it's my laptop, looks like. Okay, anyway. Since we are wrapping up, what I want you to do for today, okay, is if you don't get time to do HTML, if you don't get time to do CSS, if you don't get time to do JavaScript, at least go through this XPath over here, okay? And we will connect this dot from today to tomorrow on XPath. What I want you to do is go do it by yourself and know how difficult it is. And tomorrow when I show it to you, I want you to tell me if it's more simplified than when you try to read it by yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to stop over here. That's already done. And I think we did really good with our time. We didn't waste a lot of time, but people had some question over here. What time should we stop? 9:30. Yeah. Okay. All right. So any questions before I stop? Let me stop the recording. Yes. Okay.